I have not looked forward to analyzing a witness in quite some time like I have this witness right now. And joining me is Prosecutor Latonia Hines. Latonia, what a morning it's been so far. My gosh, so this woman was married to Brian Winchester, okay? She's now secretly recording the defendant, Denise Williams, who was cheating on her own husband with her husband. Now they're friends. She's secretly recording her and trying to get her to admit to being involved in Mike Williams' murder. These are the facts. At the end of the day, did she really admit anything? What do you think about what we've heard so far?
It's just, I mean, you couldn't do a script better than this. And I'm sure they're going to do some type of script on this. It's just kind of insane. Hearing from her, I guess at some point in time, besides being cheated on by her ex-husband, they became a part of this ex-wives club and their friends and everything like this. And then the playing of that phone call, she didn't necessarily admit explicitly, but you could imply that she knew something, which is very interesting.
Well, she admitted that she at least made the statement.
Correct.
Again, the statement is that Denise wanted Kathy to tell Marcus, who is Brian Winchester's father, to tell Brian, I'm not talking. I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah, and it's like, well, I want him to know that I'm not talking, so you don't talk. It's very interesting to me, this whole dynamic for how many years this went on. And then I guess also with the way that Brian Winchester kind of lost his own mind in like 2016. But you could definitely infer from those phone calls that she's saying, I want something to be covered up. Why is it that you want me to explicitly tell this person I'm not talking, so you don't talk?
That's one way that they're looking at it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be live in the courtroom. Okay, let's break this down even more. Latonia, one of the interesting aspects of the phone call that we heard, the secret phone call, because she was a confidential informant, is she started crying in that phone call. Now, the question is, was she being genuine, or was it a way to elicit an answer from Denise Williams? Because at the end of the day, she's crying about the subpoena, but there really was no subpoena. So this was all an act. This was all a ploy. I'm curious what you thought of that.
I mean, you could look at it two ways, and it could also be just the whole enormity of everything. The fact that all of this has happened, that she's having to do this, it could be all of those things together as the reason why for that emotion of having to do this. I mean, it's very hard. Kathy Thomas is doing an amazing job to have to keep her cool, to even record these phone calls, to be on the stand like this, because we've got to remember, she's not accused of doing anything wrong. All she is the person who is the best candidate for getting information about what happened back at that time. What I find to be interesting is this, and jurors are asking these questions about what she remembers back then. It was like 18 years ago. I would be concerned if her testimony as things progressed is that she thought something was very strange that day or whatever, because nothing was said in all this time until now about it. So I think that right now she seems to be testifying pretty truthfully.
So it should be noted that the state has officially rested. That was their last witness. We're waiting to see what the defense will ultimately do. The question, though, is really what a weird position to put her in, because she's already been cheated on. She then became best friends, or really good friends, with the person that was cheating on her husband with. And then this woman gets charged with the murder of Mike Williams. So she's in a very strange position. One of the questions that has to be proven by the prosecution is that there was, in fact, an affair. And what we've seen some evidence put forward is there were compromising photos shown to the jury yesterday of Kathy Thomas and Denise Williams in a sexual relation. This is after Mike had already disappeared, before Brian divorced Kathy. I'm curious, what is the real value of that? Is it necessary? Is that enough to show there's an affair? How does the value of that?
I mean, all of it is like what you would say, circumstantial, right? Without direct evidence.
Right.
All of that is that the jurors are going to use that in their minds to believe is it greater chance than not that they were having an affair, and that within that short period of time afterwards that they're married? And then here's the other part of it. And so this is the part that is on some levels good for the defense for Denise Williams, is that the fact that it could be that just, you could say Brian Winchester is just a bad guy, kind of crazy, and that he had this whole affair in his whole mind, and that after he got popped for the kidnapping of Denise, he just wanted an excuse to try to get back at her. And so that there wasn't really a true affair, but it was something in his head because he's, kind of crazy. Now, that being said, that's a bit of a stretch, but if you're a defense attorney, you may use that because that's what you've got. But I think that when people are listening to this, it is like double indemnity. It is like one of those plots. It seems more likely than not that Denise Williams was a part of this whole plan because she profited. We got to remember, there was that insurance policy that she profited from.
Well, over $1.7 million she got from Mike's death, and pretty incredible. Yeah, the details of this, can't make it up, and we're trying to understand all the motivations. Let's take a break. When we come back, we might be live in the courtroom, and if not, we have a lot to talk about. We'll be right back. Okay, so there's some defense is making some motions. The state is responding. Latonia, what do you think about what's going on right now? They're basically saying there's not enough here to even continue the case. We don't have to put on a case. It should be thrown out. What do you think?
It's not an uncommon thing. Most defense attorneys are going to do that. As a matter of fact, that would probably be some evidence of an example of ineffective assistance of counsel if a defense attorney didn't do that at the end of a state's case. It is common for them to ask for a directed verdict, and that's just one of those common legal matters, right? Basically saying there's not enough evidence for the charge that they have to have it go forward to a jury. There is the standard for the state in that case is pretty low. If the judge can make a determination there are enough facts to go forward, then we go forward. At least for the jury to be able to sift through, to be able to make some type of judgment on the case. Now, the other thing that they brought up and that they're doing, some of the things that the judge was saying was more about, look, I understand that your arguments about maybe what you consider to be opposing theories and everything, but the state has the ability to do that under the law. And so you hear the defense already starting to kind of do some argument about how the charges should be to the jury. It's usually not around this time that we do this at the close of the state's case, but we've got two things going on at the same time. And so that makes that kind of interesting. So we also talked a little bit about
Latonia, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we're just going to jump back into the court right now. The defense is making an argument. Okay, let's break down these arguments right now. I'm back here with Latonia Hines. So, Latonia, the first thing that they wanted to get thrown out was that murder charge and the idea of what is a principal, because she wasn't the one who fired that weapon. She wasn't there. It's not even clear that she supplied the weaponry or that she supplied any of the materials. What does it mean to be a principal? And the way that I understood it, the judge is going to reserve his judgment on that motion, that motion until a later time.
Correct. So you have two ways that you can charge someone for a crime, at least for felonies, right? The person's either the principal or they're an accessory. The principal means that you have a two-part in the crime. And when we know this from law school, there's this mens rea where your mind, your thought, let's say you are part of the planning of this idea. But then actus reus, which is dealing with you actually did something, you did an action to go forward with this. And so what the defense is saying is that there's no evidence that even if they talked about this at some point in time, that she helped facilitate any type of act of this actually happening. And so that she can't be charged as a principal because there are no facts to support that. The judge said, which is very interesting because the judge obviously has thought about this as well, he says that it could be done this way and that it could also have been charged in other alternatives, but based off of the way that it's been currently charged. Here's where the prosecution is basically having to be able to say, this fact that they talked about this the fact that they had this, she had this phone call saying don't discuss this any further, that is a part of showing that she's got an active part of this whole like conspiracy to continue this cover up. Now, here's what's interesting as well. You can still be the principal and not have been a part of the act if you help, in a sense, keep assisting with it. So, like, are you going to be able to prove, or at least this is what the prosecution's going to have the standard when they get ready to go back and look back at this motion? Is it that you came up with this theory, but did you help assist? Did you help say when he was going to be somewhere, when he wasn't going to be somewhere? I think that's going to be interesting. The thing that the defense did bring up, which is part of the little bit of a flaw for the prosecution, is the fact that they talk about this time frame. That even if they talked about it on December 9th, that from that time period to December 16th, there's no evidence showing, for purposes of Denise Williams, that she did anything more to make sure that the crime happened on December 16th. They're saying this renunciation. So on some levels, they have to kind of admit that, yes, they thought about it, they talked about it, but she wasn't a part of it actually happening on that date, but she renounced that.
And there's a very strong possibility that she might be found not guilty of the murder charge, but guilty of accessory after the fact and conspiracy. And interestingly enough, that accessory after the fact is a 3-year window from August 1st, 2014 to December 19th, 2017. This is a very interesting timeline, as you explained. Let's take a break. When we come back, the defense is going to begin their case. So stay tuned here on Law and Crime. So that's the first witness called by the defense. I'm back here with Prosecutor Latonia Hines. Are you getting the sense that what the defense's strategy will be, just keep putting the blame on Brian Winchester?
Correct. They're trying to say that this is all in his mind. If he was the one who decided to do this whole plan, he was the one who was driven for purposes of killing Williams, and it wasn't that Denise was involved with it. And so that's what they're trying to do. Now, do we think Denise Williams is going to testify? My answer is no, I don't think she's going to.
You just took the next question out of my mouth. That was what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I think she's not going to. I mean, any defense attorney will tell you, you're not going to let your client testify, especially because then you have to have her explain on the stand the things that the prosecution
and Latonia, that might be hard for her to do given all the complexity and weird sordid details of all these relationships. But I'll tell you what, let's get back. Let's see who this new witness is, and then Latonia and I will definitely talk more about what we've seen so far in the courtroom today. Okay, so Latonia, is the defense still trying to make the argument that there was no affair going on?
They are. It's very interesting to me. I guess they're trying to say that everybody was all happy. There was no evidence of any.
Yeah, they were happy. They were all fooling around together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. The whole thing's kind of crazy. The defense is doing what they can. They're going to have everybody else talk, but I bet you anything, Denise will not be the one talking. So they've got to get the information out there through other people. Now, who would be the best person to testify whether or not they were actually having an affair or sleeping with this person or that person, but one of the people being accused of doing it, right? So you've got one person who, as the defense is being able to say, is a convicted felon now, Brian Winchester, who's saying that this has happened. Yeah. But we're not going to hear it from Denise, I don't believe.
Right. Latonia, let's jump back into court. We'll talk more after this witness. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are waiting to go back live in the Denise Williams trial. They are on break. They sent the jury out for lunch. We are going to recap everything that happened so far in this trial, including today, because today was just groundbreaking testimony where Kathy Thomas, again, Brian Winchester's ex-wife, secretly recorded the defendant trying to get her to confess to being involved in the Mike Williams murder. These details, it's hard for even me to say. I want to bring back on Latonia. Latonia, I'm talking about this, and okay, let's analyze this for a second, okay? Number one, if Brian Winchester did this on his own, and, Denise Williams had no idea that he was going to do this, what's his incentive? What's his incentive? He's already having an affair with Denise. Did he really want to get Mike out of the way just so he could do it out in the open?
Yeah, so that's going to have to be the incentive. The fact that he is an irrational person. He is obsessed with Denise, and he wants to have her all to himself. Just having the affair is not enough. He wants to be able to have her free and clear, and he believed the only way he could do that was to kill Mike Williams. That's got to be the defense for Denise Williams, right? And on some levels, maybe they have some evidence of that, right? He tried to kidnap her in 2016, trying to show maybe this is all a part of his obsession with her, and she's just a victim all the way through, and that she depended on him when Mike was killed by him. She didn't know that. That's going to be the defense's thought, and that she loved him afterwards, not because it was an affair that was going on during her marriage.
Yeah, but she's the one who received that $1.75 million insurance proceeds. He would have just been the second beneficiary of it because he would have been with Denise. Let's talk about that in a minute. I want to play some of the testimony from this morning of Kathy Thomas on the stand. And if you haven't seen it, here you go. All right, everybody, we are still live in the Denise Williams trial. Her former attorney who represented her during her divorce proceedings with Brian Winchester has just stepped down. I have to sign off Latonia Hines, but I want to get one more question from you, one more answer from you, actually, is that the defense can do this all day long and say that Brian Winchester, let's put the blame on him. He admitted he's the killer here. He got an immunity deal for it. But she had so much more to gain than he did with Mike Williams' death.
Exactly, he did. And so that's going to be the hard part for the defense. That $1 million, that is a major motive.
1.75. 1.75.
1.75, exactly as you stated. 1.75 million reasons why she would have wanted to be in agreement and plan this murder of her husband, and subsequently marry the murderer, the person who actually did it. I mean, all of those things together, it just makes for, I mean, this is why this is one of the most interesting cases we've had. The facts are so intricate, especially with these relationships.
Latonia, thank you so much. I know we have to sign you off, and I think you're going to regret leaving because it appears that Denise Williams is about to take the stand. So, Latonia, we'll have you back. I know you have to run. We'll have you back, but we're going to jump live into the courtroom right now.